All right, welcome everybody. I want to welcome you to today's training called Battling the Bulge, your guide to beating a belly fat. So this has been coming up a lot in conversations. So I want to thank women for being open and honest and sharing this kind of stuff with me, because then it helps me guide the trainings that I can deliver to you. And I know it's going to speak to a lot of women. And what's been coming up a lot is about, the change in shape that happens to some of our bodies as we kind of go through menopause, and mostly that how it settles around our waistline. So let's really look at this and really understand what's kind of going on. But before we do, let me know if you're an imperfect action taker by heading to the comments and letting me know if you're here live or if you're here on replay. I just love knowing who's following along on these trainings here. So the question is like, why do so many of us carry our excess kind of weight around our belly, or why does the shift happen, right? And the answer involves your metabolism, right, which determines how many calories are too much, your hormones, and which steer fat. Kind of steers fat, yeah, and then your genes as well, right? So it's unfair, really. Some people can eat whatever they want and never gain an inch, right? While others, some of us, for example, seem like we eat healthy and the weight keeps adding to our midsection, or we're getting older and nothing seems to kind of be working, right? So let's break it all down so you're in the know why it's happening and what we can do about it, right? So first, let's break down the two different kinds of fats you might be seeing, and feeling kind of around your midsection. So the first one is a subcutaneous fat, and this kind of fat is stored just beneath kind of the skin surface. It's typically kind of found all over the body, including your abdomen. It's the type of fat that you can kind of pinch and feel when you touch your belly, while excess, if you have too much of this kind of fat, so you have excess of this fat, it can affect your appearance and your overall health. It's generally less harmful than like the second type of fat, which we're going to get into, which is visceral fat. And visceral fat is the most dangerous kind of type of belly fat. It's stored deep in your abdominal cavity, and it's surrounding important kind of internal organs like your liver, your pancreas, and your intestines. And it's not visible from the outside and can't be easily pinched. It's often associated with other like risk factors like heart disease, type 2 diabetes, and other chronic conditions. And so reducing kind of the visceral fat is particularly important for improving overall health. So there's two different kinds. The one that we're mostly concerned with, because it is the subcutaneous fat, because it's the one that we can pinch. It's the one that kind of changes our shape. But the one that we need to be most concerned with is the visceral fat as well. So I think the one that we're mostly going to touch on today, or the one that you're most concerned with, is the subcutaneous fat. The shift that happens at menopause, or the shift that happens as we get older, tends to be like we turn into kind of an apple shape, when that wasn't the case before. A lot of women, even just like recently, have been saying like, hey, I've never had to worry about my weight, and now I hit my 40s and now things are starting to like feel a little bit different and look a little bit different, and I've never had to concern myself with that. So I thought next that we should break down kind of how weight gain happens in the first place, so we can move into kind of understanding why the shape of our body changes as we approach menopause. And why mainly it gets added to your waistline, right? So let's kind of like zoom out. So now we've kind of talked about these two different fats. So now let's zoom out and kind of really look at like, well, why does weight gain happen in the first place? So weight gain is the result of a simple issue. Not saying it's easy, but I'm saying it's pretty simple. You're eating more calories than your body burns throughout the day. Common objection I hear from women. Even I just started a coaching client, and she's like, I eat really healthy. I don't eat a lot. I only eat 2 meals. And then as we started coaching together, and she started learning about like proteins, carbs, and fats, and she started learning about all that, she was like, wow, no, like she was saying like, hey, I bring a huge salad, and it's got chicken on it. And she's like, and I make an olive dressing. She's like, wow, that's like really 4 servings of fat in that salad, when I thought, oh, I'm only eating twice. I'm only eating healthy. So really, in terms of weight gain, it's the result of you're eating more calories than your body burns throughout the day. Often when I, again, like first start chatting with women to explore coaching, they express, like that they work out regularly, but the weight kind of isn't shifting. Although exercise is great on so many levels. When it comes to calories, the number of calories calories your body burns per day is only mildly impacted by the amount of exercise you perform. And I wanted to point that out because if you're the kind of person, because generally when women go to weight loss, they generally either put more eggs in one basket versus the other. For example, they're either doing the whole nutrition thing and just like sparsely over here with the exercise thing, or they're going into the exercise thing and sparsely over here. Well, if you're in the category where you're putting more eggs in the exercise basket and you're like, it's not moving the needle, or it used to move the needle and now it's not moving the needle, then I just needed to say that you're really like overall, it's not doing a good enough job in terms of burning calories to kind of impact your metabolism or impact your weight. If you think about it too, if you think about like, okay, well, I do my 45-minute workout, for example, and I burn X number of calories, then the rest of the day I work at a sedentary job. Does that 45 minutes outdo all of the sedentariness that I'm doing throughout the day? So the challenge is this: most women cut back on their calories too drastically when they first start, and it kind of makes it all worse. You feel like you're doing everything and you're not really getting like a lot of returns. Then the body amps up by increasing like hunger and cravings and slowing down your metabolism. So really it's like, I'm making an argument for slow and steady. A 1% weight loss per week and steady reductions in eating combined with exercise, inactivity and exercise have a very small effect on increasing hunger and slowing down the metabolism. That's why you want to go slow. So a lot of women will like put it into MyFitnessPal and say, and then, this is my weight, this is my deadline for wanting to achieve that weight. And so it's pretty aggressive. And so they end up to a point where it's like, I'm hungry all the time, or I can't fight these cravings, and that sort of thing. And they feel really deprived, or they feel like always hungry and always struggling. Food's kind of always on their mind. So what I'm advocating for is that, one, if you just did it really, really slowly, like steady reductions in eating, steady increases in activity, then you don't set those alarms off as much. And so it doesn't has as great of an effect on increasing your hunger and slowing down your metabolism. So many women have done, years of dieting, which have resulted in them losing weight and then gaining weight. So when you lose weight, you kind of generally, you're losing some muscle there as well. The problem is when you gain the weight back, you gain all the fat back. So when this happens, you have like less muscle, more fat on your body, you burn less calories at rest, making it harder for you to lose weight. So this puts significant stress on not only on your metabolism, but mentally too. And so again, it's making the case of like, hey, resistance training is kind of the way to go. So some women will say, look, I'll just lose the weight and now I want to work on toning. There is a way of doing both in combination. And so one is, should the worst case scenario happen where you're rebounding, you still have that preservation of muscle, even though you're gaining fat. And we also know that muscle takes up less space in your body. It doesn't weigh more, it just takes up less space in your body. So you visually look different. So the question is, do you want to look skinny fat or do you want to look toned? So anyway, so most people, when they do drastic cuts, when they do lose a lot of weight, we're not considering like, hey, but I'm also losing a lot of muscle with that too. And what's the impact that that's going to have, down the road, or what's the impact going to have if the worst case scenario comes true and I regain the weight. So that kind of not only helps you kind of simplify it, but it also helps you understand why you want to build muscle and choose the slow and steady approach, right? So even if the food is healthy, if the weight is increasing or not moving, there's a high chance you're consuming too many calories, even though they might be healthy calories, right? And what I see what happen with some women as they age or as their lifestyle changes. So, like I had one client who went from working on a plant floor, like in a factory, and so she was always on her feet, and then she moved up into the office and now she's always sitting. So she's like, my eating hasn't changed, my activity, like I'm still working out regularly, but her daily movement decreased, right, quite significantly, right? Or maybe it's just because you're inconsistent. You're still taking in the same amount of healthy foods. So for example, for this client, she went from working on the production floor to then moving into the office, still taking in the same amount of food that she was eating, still healthy, right? right? And she was still working out, but the weight wasn't budging. The weight was actually slightly increasing. And it was because she hadn't adjusted the amount of healthy food that she was eating. And I just had another client as well. It was like, okay, 10 years ago, she was 42. And at 42, she's still eating kind of at 52 now. She's still eating the same, but her job has changed. She's more inconsistent with her exercises. Also, she used to do like more CrossFit type workouts, and now she's just doing more walking when she is working out, or, you know, kind of more body weight exercises. So she's like, well, well, first of all, there's 10 years from 42 to 52, right? So your metabolism looks different over those 10 years. Your lifestyle looks different, but you haven't adjusted your healthy eating to reflect the changes in your lifestyle. So I've eaten healthy. This is what used to help me sustain my weight or lose my weight, and it's not working anymore. That could be the reason too. So metabolism can affect belly fat by slowing down as we age. So when metabolism kind of slows down, the body burns fewer calories at rest. And if calorie intake kind of remains the same, it can lead to an increase in belly fat over time, especially when it's combined with other factors like reduced muscle mass and hormonal changes, especially like cortisol would be one as well. So this starts to get us into how it lands kind of on our belly, like why can't it go somewhere else, right? So we don't get to like pick where our fat goes, or whether we carry our weight more in our lower body, like the pear shape, or around our belly, like the apple shape. Depends on some extent on our hereditary, right? And which is something that we can't influence. But the other major kind of determinants of fat storage are our hormones, and is something you can influence to a certain degree with kind of your lifestyle choices, right? So a lot of women will come to me and be like, I just want to stabilize my hormones. I just want to balance my hormones. You can do that by changing your lifestyle choices, because your hormones respond to the inputs. So especially how we live our lives, they kind of impact our hormones, and then these hormones impact our ability to store or kind of release fat. But here's what's happening from a hormonal perspective, right? Women are more prone to storing fat due to decrease in progesterone. And then women are more prone to increased cravings due to that decreased progesterone, but now and estrogen. And women are more stress sensitive due to a decrease in progesterone. And women are more insulin resistant, making them store more belly fat. So the female metabolism is adapting down slightly due to a decline in reproductive hormones. So when you tell me you want to balance your hormones, it makes sense that you feel like your hormones are out of balance, and it makes a sense that you feel that your hormones are to blame, but you do have more control or more power. It's not all doom and gloom, in that we can start affecting our hormones by our lifestyle inputs. So how we're eating, our sleep, our stress, how we're exercising, those sort of things. So the tendency for fat to kind of accumulate around your waistline, resulting in kind of that apple-shaped body, is influenced by a combination of, let's say, genetics, hormones, but our lifestyle factors. So let's dig into kind of that a little bit more. So we're getting a little bit more narrow, right? We're talking about the two different types of fats. We're talking about metabolism and how you lose weight. And now we're talking about, okay, these hormonal shifts that are happening and how come it starts to land on our waistline, right? Okay, so hormones play a significant role in fat distribution. For example, during menopause, a decrease in estrogen levels can lead to a shift in fat storage from, let's say the hips and thighs, commonly referred to like as that pear shape, to a more abdominal area, commonly referred to as that apple-shaped body. So some individuals may have reduced insulin sensitivity, especially as they age. This plays like a small role. So don't go blaming insulin just yet, right? It isn't that we need to cut out carbs or sugary foods. It's that the calorie dense foods are easier to overconsume. So sometimes we think it's like, I got to cut out carbs, I got to cut out sugar foods. And a lot of us could benefit from reducing the amount or changing the type of carbs that we're eating to more wholesome, nutrient dense carbohydrates. But it's kind of making the argument and saying like, we can't blame insulin, we can't blame it being carbs and sugar. It's more about that overall, because now we understand weight loss, because we just talked about it, right? Is that you're still consuming too much of a calorie in terms of in relation to how you're expending it. And so it has more to do with that than it has to do with the eliminating carbs or the insulin, for example, right? So for example, you can eat a lot of potato chips, right, in a short amount of time, consuming a high volume of calories, yet you would have a harder time getting those same calories, let's say from from berries, which are a carb, right? Or from some vegetables, like especially like root vegetables, that are fibrous, but are still have carbohydrates in them as well. So vegan and vegetarians, for example, consume higher amounts of carbohydrates and far lower amounts of fat than omnivores, right? Yet are on average much less likely to be overweight or obese. It's just not true that those who eat more carbs and fewer fats are basically fatter people, right? Though those who eat more calories are, no matter how they get them in. So it's just saying like, hey, some of, because women do get into this, like, I just need to cut out my carbs. And I think what we're talking about is maybe processed carbs, maybe carbs that are less nutrient dense, or maybe we're talking about how much of that we eat. But it's not about eliminating carbs entirely. It's not about blaming insulin entirely. It's that overall, if you're feeling like, oh, it's carbs are the problem, it's probably because you're still consuming too many calories, and it has more to do with that than the type of food that you're eating. So it's really the point that I want to drive home. While carbohydrates and sugar can contribute to weight gain, when consumed in excess is the key word. It's more about the access than it is about the type of food. So consuming more calories than the body needs, regardless of the source, whether it's carbs, fat, or protein, can lead to weight gain, including belly fat too, right? It's just like it's harder to eat in excess of protein. And in terms of fat, we get, it's easier for fat and for carbs as well. So I'm just gonna take a sip. So genetics can influence where your body, tends to store fat. So if your family has a history of, abdominal obesity, you may be more prone to kind of storing fat in the waistline. So you can blame your mom, for example, and your grandma, and be all doom and gloom, or you can consider how, poor lifestyle choices can be impacting this, making it feel maybe even worse. So sure, you do have a layer of hard in terms of like your genetics maybe aren't on your side. But how hard do you want to make it for yourself? So you do have you do have quite a bit actually of control over this area by focusing more on your lifestyle choices versus just blaming genetics, right? The cool thing about building more muscle all over is that having more muscle mass can actually give off the appearance that you look overall a lot leaner. And it's the same thing, right? Like if I say like let's say this is 5 pounds of fat, it would look a lot bigger. But if this was 5 pounds of fat, and this is my 5 pounds of muscle. They weigh the same. They're both 5 pounds. Just this occupies less space in your body than this. And so I'm just grabbing what's on my desk here. And so that's why you look leaner, you look smaller, and that sort of thing, right? So poor dietary habits or lack of physical activity and excess calorie intake can contribute to more abdominal fat accumulation. So a sedentary lifestyle and excessive consumption of, let's say, refined carbohydrates and sugar can lead to weight gain. It isn't that we're picking on carbs and refined sugar, it's that it's the excess of it with the preference for storing fat in the abdominal area, right? So a sedentary lifestyle, especially as people age, can contribute to significant weight gain in abdominal fat. So regular physical activity helps burn calories and build muscle, which can counteract those age-related changes in metabolism that we might be experiencing. So the common theme among all my clients is that they are living very stressful lives, right? Many of them are, I tend to attract more type A personalities, people pleasers. They're maybe like go, go, go. So they're not recovering from exercise, not resting or prioritizing sleep and self-care. So other clients are, living busy, stressful lives, but are not exercising and are over consuming high calorie foods. So many of my clients have been chronically dieting or under eating. So this puts stress on the metabolism, making it more resistant to weight loss. It also means that the metabolism adapts faster to each diet you do. And I think that one's an important one to pause on because we go into each diet with great hopes it's going to lead to the exact same results we got the very first time. But this kind of explains why that generally is not the case with that, and why sometimes, even though we're putting our best foot forward, if we have high amounts of stress and that sort of thing, why it feels like we're doing everything but nothing is working because we're not really focusing on the variable that we need to kind of address, right? So chronic stress can trigger the release of cortisol, which is a hormone, a stress hormone, right? And elevated cortisol levels are associated with like abdominal fat accumulation. So high stress levels can lead to like emotional eating and unhealthy lifestyle choices. And further, it can contribute to kind of like that belly fat, and poor sleep can disrupt the metabolism and appetite regulation too. So this one feels like a little bit more obscure. Like most women, when they think about losing weight, they're generally tackling it from the exercise or from the nutrition side of things. They're not really looking at it from the stress angle. And sometimes it feels harder to address the stress angle because it feels like I don't know how, there's so many variables there. I don't know how to get a good handle on that. Or it feels like, or some people are just don't understand how that is actually connected to weight loss, right? So during perimenopause and menopause, the body already has like increased cortisol due to the, changes in hormones, right? So this is kind of normal, but coupled with an unbalanced kind of lifestyle or eating too little or overtraining or not recovering properly and everything that we've just kind of talked about, right? This becomes the, kind of like a perfect recipe for females to kind of gain weight. So it's not uncommon for, my more advanced clients, I guess, to even tell me that they, they track their calories or their macros and are still not seeing results. So this is because the body utilizes calories or burns calories less effectively when there's like a cortisol imbalance kind of going on. So again, making the case that, stress does play a huge role. It isn't solely to blame. And you have a lot more control over it in terms of your inputs that influence those hormones. So when you say you want to balance your hormones, I'm hoping that you're thinking that it's cortisol hormones as well. And then you can see that, okay, well, there's a lot of things that I can do to change that. But I also get like that feels a little bit more abstract, where it feels like I'll do the exercise and nutrition thing and then I'll figure that out. Or if I just lose the weight, then the stress will go. But that's not really true. So you can start to see that there are some factors we can't control, right? But there are still many we can control. And that's where we want to shift our focus. So it's, if you already have, hey, genetics aren't on your side, hereditary, like in your age, and now you're in menopause, those are all variables that make it hard. Do you want to make it harder? And that's the question that you got to ask yourself. So it's not deny that this is kind of feels hard, right? But it's, do you want to make it harder? And if you're answering no, then you got to shift your focus into what you can control, right? So I have set the stage for you to understand, the two types of fat, right? How weight loss works. We understand that, right? And why the weight comes on kind of around our midsection versus our other areas. So next, what I hear women do next is more core workouts, more planks, crunches, V-ups, sit-ups, right? So the next question is, can these help, right? Can we spot reduce? And I'll often get clients who be like, I worked out, and I'll be like, what'd you do? And they'll be like, I just did core. And then we have a discussion about why we're doing core. And sure, like core exercises do build strength, but there are other more efficient ways or efficient uses of your time to build strength in your core without doing, so much of your core workout. So let's go through it. It's a myth. Crunches, shrinking your waistline, that's kind of a myth. And it's been proven to be inaccurate, right? It's hard to deny that fat does seem to kind of melt off certain areas of your body. So I always have, there's, when Hunger Games came out, there was a meme that was circulated, and it was about, they had lost weight, and it said, my boobs volunteer in tribute, right? So a lot of women, that might happen, or they see like their upper body. So for me, it's like I lose weight in my upper body and in my face first before I lose it in my lower body. Even when I was competing, it was like my legs took so much more volume, so much more heavier weight, so much more time to kind of catch up to my upper body. So you're right, like, yeah, and you see like a massage therapist, for example, and it's like, you can see like their arms are more defined, right? Or you can see like a hockey player, you can see like their glutes are really defined. So you can see like, hey, over time, when you're using those muscles in various ways under resistance, right, that you can see you can change the shape, but you can't spot reduce, right? It's hard to, fat does seem to melt off certain areas of your body while it kind of clings to others. And that said, being able to kind of target individual muscles or even different portions of muscles is not the same as targeted fat loss, right? Specifically, doing crunches to kind of shrink your stomach won't melt belly fat. This doesn't work because men, like women, can't spot reduce because the body looks at fat overall versus a localized area. So when you're doing crunches, you're actually, one, not burning a lot of calories. Two, working in a gym for so many years, a majority of women do crunches all wrong. And three is that it's about losing fat over the whole body versus being able to target and having a localized area where the fat comes off. So when you start to think about the calories in and calories out, the thing that actually leads to weight loss, it doesn't selectively burn fat from a specific area. It's losing it overall. It just so happens that for some people, they have an easier time with it than others, or like some people lose weight in their upper body first, like I said, versus their lower body. So fat loss occurs throughout the body, and the body decides where it takes fat from based on various factors. It could be like genetics, or it could be hormones. But men and women tend to store fat differently due to kind of those hormonal differences. Women often have a higher percentage of body fat and may store more in like their hips, their thighs, and their abdomen, where genetic factors also play a role in determining where your body stores and loses fat. So strength training and resistance exercises can build muscle in specific areas, but it doesn't necessarily reduce fat in those areas. You may strengthen and tone the muscles underneath the fat, which can improve the appearance of a particular body part, but the fat itself won't disappear solely from that area. So to lose fat, you kind of need to create a calorie deficit by burning more calories than you consume. So this deficit triggers the body to use more of the stored fat for energy. Where the body takes fat from depends on individual factors, and it isn't something you can control by targeting a specific exercise or body part. Okay, so let's strip away the misconception and get to the core of why that stubborn belly fat accumulates and how to conquer it. No more it's destiny or it's a lost cause. It's about, taking control and making some conscious kind of choices. So one, we got to shift your eating, right? Understanding that for weight loss, it's about consuming a bit less while emphasizing quality. So even though you feel like you're eating the exact same, I gave you the scenarios at the very beginning of this to show you like, hey, I'm eating the same, but you're not factoring in how your lifestyle has changed as well and how that impacts, right? So you could still be eating a lot, or even though you're eating healthy, it's that you could still be eating a lot of healthy, so you're not in that little bit of the calorie deficit. And we made the case as to why we want to go slow and steady versus fast, because there's a greater impact with that. And then we want to look at not only our calorie count, right? We want to look at how those calories are made up. And so one is prioritizing more protein, prioritizing fiber, which has loads of health benefits and some really great research on that in regards to cancer as well. And so we're looking at, can I eat more protein? Can I eat more fiber? Can I boost those two things? Can I eat more nourishing foods? It's not to say you're omitting the other stuff. It's to say, can I prioritize that more? Then two, it would be controlling cortisol. So manage stress with simple techniques, right? Like it could be, some of us could benefit from counseling, right? But breath work, practicing self-care, some women like journaling, others can you consider like decreasing like your caffeine or your alcohol intake. Here's what I gotta tell you about alcohol is when you drink alcohol, the body has to then make a decision. Is it going towards fat loss or is it going to work towards inflammation? And it'll always choose inflammation when you drink alcohol. So that's the trade that you're making. And then you want to prioritize sleep. So I know, because we have busy lives, right? And we want to, and then sometimes we only get our alone time at the very end of the night. So we delay sleep, but it's about like being as consistent as possible with your kind of sleep routine and really saying like, no, I just got to do this because otherwise the trade that I'm going to make is like, my ability to lose weight, or my hunger, my cravings, that my energy to work out, and that sort of thing. And we want to move your body. So even small changes, like, even if you just went from no walks to a short walk, even though it's just 10 minutes, like I just had a client, she's like, there's no way I can do it in the morning. And as we got through it, it was like, well, she can't do it in the morning because she's thinking it has to be an hour long. And so that was her block to doing it in the morning, but she's running into a lot of obstacles in the evening with all of her commitments. And so it was about reframing, well, can you do 20 minutes? And it was about also too, like in the morning, she also makes the lunches for her and her kids. And then we said, well, could you switch that to the evenings? Because then that frees up extra time without having to get up earlier, right? So we got shifting your eating, controlling your cortisol, prioritizing your sleep, moving your body, and then we got to build muscle, right? We don't underestimate kind of the power of muscle. It not only transforms your physique, but it also kind of revs up your metabolism there. And so again, like if you're looking to balance your hormones, if you're looking like, hey, the weight's shifting around my abdomen, this hasn't been an issue before and now it is, like these are the factors that you can control. Do you have to do all of them at one time? No. Can you gradually build on them? Yes. But it's looking at, how do I do these things in a simple and easy way that fits my lifestyle, that doesn't add a lot of resistance or doesn't add a lot of like added stress on it. It's doing it in manageable ways. And I get it. I was, because we want it off now, right? And so going the slow and easy conflicts with that thing that you have in your mind is like, this isn't going to work. I need to be more aggressive. This is what I've always done before. It conflicts with those two messages that you have. Understanding slow and steady is the way to win the race. But this is what you've always done. This is what you've known to do. This is what you've been told to do, right? So it's kind of hard to do that. So I just, basically it's not destiny, it's about choices. So you can choose to take charge, right? Because you have more control than you think. And it's not to say like, as you're approaching like menopause and you're seeing the shifts and everything happen, you're saying like, hey, what used to work doesn't work right now. It's not to negate the fact that it feels hard. So let's just put that on the table. It feels hard. It's the question is do you want to make it harder or not? And we can do hard things. Do we want to do harder things? And you can choose your hard, right? Because changing, for example, like your eating, your cortisol, your sleep, moving your body and building muscle, that can be a level of hard, but it's also hard to feel out of control, out of balance, blaming, excusing. That's a level of hard too. So you get to choose what kind of hard looks like. So that's what I have for you today. If this video was helpful, then you can give it a like. If you have any questions just leave them in the comments below. And then if you're looking for more, there are 3 ways that I can guide you as your coach. Is one through a personalized 12-week coaching journey. It's for women. It's done remotely. And if you go to the guide section, you'll see all kinds of testimonials in there from other women, interviews that we've done with other women and their shared experiences. But basically it's about, I work on mindset. So making mindset shifts to shift your habits in the areas of nutrition, exercise, stress, and sleep. We're doing it in a customized approach. It's personalized to you. It's not kind of 12 weeks, one and done built and Sharon and Karen get the same thing. It's very much goes at your pace and it gradually builds up and builds up. And so with loads of accountability. So there's that. And then we have Consistency Club. So Consistency Club is more like group coaching. It's not personalized to you, but I got to tell you that I've had women in Consistency Club for over 3 years. And the key is that it is about consistency. We do various challenges throughout the year. So there's 6 challenges throughout the year and they all focus on mindset, nutrition, and exercise. And there's a level of accountability in there. And so women pick up different skills and different habits and they learn how to kind of rev them up. And then the months in between each challenge, we kind of work on our baseline habits. So it's not all or nothing, 0 to 100%. It's kind of like when we challenge, it's 80 to 90%. When we're not challenging, we're learning how to maintain 60%. So that's what Consistency Club is. But I also have a studio in Strathroy, Ontario, and we do small group training where the focus is on resistance training mixed with some cardio there. And I am a big proponent of walking around and making sure that your form is on point and that exercise kind of works for you. Okay, so if this video kind of delivered value, then you want to give it a like. But also, I would encourage you to invite other women. You can tag them in the comments if they're already in this community, or you can send them the link to join this community. Because here's why, is we're going to change the conversation. So rather than 4 women going on a women's trip and complaining about how their weight's gone, how it's not working, how it feels like a lost cause, it must be my hormones, we're now having a more empowered conversation together where we can support one another, where we can be like, hey, well, I listened to this and we have more control than this. And it's like, here are the 5 things, how we can, when we start to hold each other accountable and support each other that way. Great friendships get built that way, but it also is a more authentic conversation for a woman to have. And it's also, more growth oriented, right? Versus kind of feeling like you're spinning your wheels all the time. All right. So I'm Coach Cindy. Thanks so much for joining me today.